Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different, digging into some very personal source material.
Yeah, it's a Gardener's Own Notes. Notes on Gardening, Part 6660s, The Challenges of Growing Garden Balsam.
Right. And it seems simple, just gardening woes, but it actually reveals something pretty profound about how plants react to stress.
Mm-hmm.
So this gardener, they finally got garden balsam seeds to sprout. A small win, right? But then the seedlings just struggled. They ended up stunted, really small and super leggy, long, weak stems.
Yeah, not what you want.
But here's the kicker. Before these tiny plants got anywhere near full size, one of them flowered, just popped out a bloom.
And that tiny flower, that's kind of our key.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today is to figure out exactly what in the environment, the microclimate, caused the stunting and legginess.
Okay.
And more importantly, what does that early flowering tell us? It's about maturity versus physical size, a real survival tactic.
So we're questioning that whole low-maintenance idea for garden balsam?
Exactly. Is it really beginner-friendly if things go wrong like this? By the end, we should have a much clearer picture. Let's get into the dirt.
Okay, so first, the background from the notes. This gardener had tried growing garden balsam impatiens balsamina before.
Yeah, and apparently failed. The notes mention 0 success with seeds previously.
So getting these free seeds from a vendor, expectations were, well, probably pretty low.
You'd think so.
And then success. This batch actually sprouted. That's the baseline, the small victory.
And it's a crucial piece of information.
How so?
Well, it tells us the seeds themselves were okay, viable, and the basic setup for germination must have worked.
Right, so the problem wasn't getting them started.
No, the issue cropped up after they sprouted when they encountered their growing conditions, the microclimate.
So they had healthy little seedlings ready to go, but they hit a wall.
Pretty much, yeah. An invisible wall in their environment.
And the notes describe two main symptoms happening at the same time. First, stunted growth. They just stayed tiny.
Very slow development, yeah.
And second, extreme legginess.
Can you describe what legginess looks like for anyone unfamiliar?
Sure. It means the stems get really long and thin, often pale, and there are big gaps between the leaves, like the plant is stretching desperately.
Exactly, stretching. And that combination, being small and stretching like that, that's the plant basically screaming for help.
And the gardener, they immediately pinpointed the cause in the notes, didn't they?
They did. They blamed the microclimate of the spot they chose.
And the notes are specific: partial sun and mostly shade.
Bingo. That's the smoking gun right there. Those specific light conditions, they directly cause those symptoms.
Okay, explain that connection. How does mostly shade lead to both stunting and legginess? It seems kind of contradictory.
It does seem weird, but it's a direct biological response. It's called etiolation. The legginess isn't random. It's the plant actively trying to find more light.
So it's using energy to stretch, even if it's stunted overall.
Precisely. Think of it like this. The seedling senses the low light levels, probably using photoreceptors near its tip. That triggers hormones, mostly auxins, which tell the stem cells, elongate, go up, find the sun.
So it's not conserving energy at that point.
Not at all. It's making a huge gamble. It's pouring all its energy reserves into that upward stretch, that search mission.
A Hail Mary pass for light.
You got it. If it finds brighter light, great. The gamble pays off. You can start making proper leaves, photosynthesizing properly.
But in this case, the whole area was mostly shade, so the stretching was futile.
Exactly. The search failed. The legginess is the physical evidence of that failed search.
Yeah.
It spent the energy, but got no return.
Okay, that explains the legginess. So where does the stunting come in?
Well, since the search failed and the plant still isn't getting enough light for good photosynthesis, it basically has to slam on the brakes.
Ah, okay.
You can't afford to build more complex stuff.
Yeah.
Big leaves, thick stems. It doesn't have the energy income. So it stays small, stunted, just trying to survive on what little it has.
So legginess is the active search phase. Stunting is the conservation phase after the search failed. That clicks.
Makes sense now, right?
Yeah, it really does. But that brings us to the really mind-bending part of the notes, the gardener's aha moment.
Right. Because initially, looking at these tiny, weak, stretched out plants.
You just assume they're immature, right? Still in the growth phase, just struggling and slow because of the bad conditions.
That's the completely logical human assumption. Small plant equals young plant.
But the plant had other ideas.
It was on a different schedule entirely. The critical observation, the thing that shattered that assumption, was seeing one of these tiny stunted plants flower.
Producing a bloom. despite being maybe only a few inches tall?
Exactly. And that's the paradox. It had reached reproductive maturity. It was ready to make seeds, even though its physical growth was, well, pathetic.
Wow. So the plant's biological clock, the one that says, okay, time to switch from growing leaves to making flowers, that clock kept ticking.
Kept ticking. And you could even argue the stress accelerated.
Accelerated.
Think about it from the plant's perspective. It's in a really bad situation. Prolonged darkness, not enough resources. This signals an existential threat.
Okay, survival mode.
Right. The plant basically calculates, I might not live long enough to reach full size. So the priority shifts.
From growing bigger.
To reproducing.
Yeah.
Quickly. It switches from investing in growth to investing in flowering and making the next generation.
So it's like a desperate last act. I might die small, but I need to pass on my genes first.
That's a great way to put it. It's resource allocation under extreme pressure. Building more leaves and stems in the shade, bad investment. Might just die anyway.
Right.
But putting those last bits of energy into making even one flower, maybe a few seeds, that's the better bet for the species' survival. It's an evolutionary trade-off.
So for a plant like this under stress, maturity isn't about size at all.
Not primarily, no.
Oh.
Especially for annuals like Garden Balsam.
It's about the stress level.
It's about the internal signals triggered by that stress. The plant essentially says, conditions are terrible, my window might be closing, I need a flower now. Maturity gets redefined as the earliest possible moment it can reproduce.
That completely changes how you see the problem. It wasn't slow growth. It was like accelerated aging caused by stress.
Yes. Premature reproductive acceleration.
Yeah.
And that realization led the gardener to their final conclusion in the notes.
Which was about that whole low-maintenance, beginner-friendly label.
Exactly. The gardener concluded that label is misleading, potentially very misleading.
Because
their experience showed that while Garden Balsam might not need constant fertilizing or pruning, it has non-negotiable needs. Light is a big one.
And if you don't meet that need, if you put it in too much shade.
It doesn't just grow poorly. It does this drastic, stressed-out rush to flower small. That's a survival mechanism, sure. But for the gardener wanting big, bushy plants, it's a failure.
So low maintenance doesn't mean it tolerates everything.
Not at all. You could say it's low fuss, but not high tolerance, especially regarding light. It's sensitive, and that sensitivity shows up in this really dramatic way, speeding up its life cycle.
That's a really important distinction for anyone growing plants, especially beginners. You have to get those basic conditions right first.
Absolutely. Foundational requirements matter.
Okay, let's just quickly recap the journey here. Started with seeds sprouting success. Then into the shade microclimate. That caused the legginess, the desperate search for light.
And the stunting, the conservation mode when the search failed.
And the big surprise, the premature flowering. The stressed plant sacrificing size for reproduction.
Showing us maturity isn't always tied to size.
You really walked us through how a simple observation connects to some deep plant biology, resource allocation under pressure.
And that's really the final thought we want to leave you with. Consider that tiny plant making a calculated decision. Growth is too risky right now. Reproduction is the priority. This one little gardening story, it's a glimpse into something universal. When things get tough, when resources are scarce, organisms often adapt by changing their life cycle. They prioritize. They accelerate.
From plants to, well, everything.
Potentially, yes. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What can this single observation about a stressed garden balsam teach us about how all life manages limited energy when faced with challenges? It's a fundamental question about adaptation, sacrifice, and survival in an uncertain world.